record button. What is up, my friend?
What up? What up?
Is that a Bible in your hand?
Nah, son, it's my journal. It could be a Bible. It's my
I mean,
journal.
no judgment or anything. I just didn't realize that's what
Yeah.
we were in store for
Are you,
tonight.
are you about to shame me?
No, I thought maybe you were about to talk to me about my soul or something.
Well, let me speak to you about a little man. Oh, that's funny. I know someone who was betrayed by a kiss.
There was another wee little man, a wee little man named Zacchaeus. And anyway, what's going on with you?
Oh, nothing. Geez, that's not a good way to start. We were just having the conversation when we were getting. I got a tickle in my throat there. We were talking about how good it is to come home, or at least it is to me. I came home from a little over a 2-week vacation, like 2 and couple day vacation, and my grass. I live in southern Alabama, like at the Panhandle of Florida. My grass had grown to about 8 to 10 inches, so over ankle high. And when I came home, I was excited at the opportunity that I was thinking like, "Ooh, you're a dirty girl."
I mean, so I 100% relate to that. Like, I love doing yard work, but that kind of stresses me out. That's pretty tall. Like,
Yeah.
is it leaving quite a trail behind you?
Well, so let me ask you something. Do you do a bag? Do you do grass, just let it shoot out the side, or do you let it just fall down and mulch on the blade?
So
How's your operation set up there?
I
Ace?
shoot out the side, but I also do patterns. So,
Uh-huh.
and I've got a roller on the back. So one week I'll go this way, and the next week I'll go that way. And sometimes I'll get tricky and do like a vertical and then a horizontal.
Oh boy.
But yeah, I'm
Does that do the checker pattern?
yes,
Okay.
yeah. But yeah, I get real nervous about. I keep my grass pretty tall anyway,
Yeah.
like on the second to highest setting. But when I'm on vacation for a long time and I know it's going to be really tall, like I can't. I don't like that. That's too much.
Do you give it a short haircut before you leave? That's what I did. I gave mine a real tight haircut
Oh,
before I left.
no, I'm sorry. I thought you were out. So what I'll do, I'll just mow it the same length, but before so when we get home, I'll mow
Mm-hmm.
just a little bit off, and then I'll do another mowing because
Uh-huh.
I don't want to take that much off at a time.
Oh, you don't want to damage the grass.
Yeah, right.
Okay. You might know a little bit more about this than I do. I just seeded and fertilized for the first time in my life this year
Okay.
because we had a drought between the time that I purchased the home, and between the time that I actually moved in. There was about a month there where we weren't getting a lot of rain, and I wasn't here to water the grass. So when we moved in, it was pretty dead. I
Had it? Could you tell? Like, had it been taken care of previously? Like, is it
Yes,
an established law?
it was sodded on there,
Okay.
rolled down sod, and this is new construction,
Okay.
and they were watering every day. When we came to check it out the first couple times, it was being watered every day by the builders. But after we purchased it, it's not on the builders anymore, so they took their
Yeah,
hoses
they
and
turned
left.
off the faucet.
Yeah. So I anyway, excuse me. This is my very first experience seeding and fertilizing and whatnot,
Yeah.
because I had to shake out some seed and fertilizer. I got an old 3-in-1 from Home Depot. It
Okay.
was seed, fertilizer, and fire ant repellent, because we got those.
Okay.
Shake that out around here. I did that twice. I did that in 2 separate waves. The second wave, I think I got on top of some of the first wave, and it burnt the grass. It's like
Okay.
it's dead now, and well,
Well,
it's brown in that part.
when did you do the first application?
Um, May May 17th.
Okay.
No, well, like the second, around May 17th.
And then when did you do the second application?
Middle of June, about a month later.
Okay. And what type of grass is it that you're planting?
I couldn't tell you. It's it matches. It's like the traditional,
Fescue, probably.
probably. Here, let me
It's not not Bermuda.
get you a little piece here. It's the wide buddy. See that?
Okay.
What are you looking
Yeah.
at there?
Looks like that looks like a piece of fescue grass.
Piece of fescue.
That's what I'm seeing right there.
Well,
Yeah. So it may
fescue
have
if I do. You know what I'm saying?
it may have just burnt it up a little bit. The problem is that fescue looks the best, but it's a cool season grass. So really, you really want to seed in the fall so it can take hold and get strong over the fall and in the winter. Um, if it, you guys, you'll never get snow out there, will you?
Well, they got it last year. Like every once in a while, every like 5 or so years, they get a
Really?
dusting. Yeah, and it even
Like,
stuck enough to they're taking
real
videos of
snowman?
them going sledding. Yeah, snowball
Oh
fights
wow.
and whatnot.
Anyway, yeah, not
But
to bore
normally,
everybody.
no. Yeah,
Not to bore everybody, but yeah, you could. You'll
people
probably
are
want to see it
on
again.
the edge of their seats right now. I guarantee. Somebody's like, "Yeah, keep going,
Someone's taking notes,
keep
and
it slower, slower."
somebody's probably like, "What an idiot! That's not how you do it."
I know.
But yeah, you'll want to see it again in the fall, and then if you get any snow, just throw some seed on top of the snow and let it as it melts, it'll just kind of
That's cool.
meld into the ground.
I got me a dispenser, a little hopper spreader.
Oh yeah, like a
Yeah, yeah.
crank or a
No, 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 no. I got the one on the wheels.
oh yeah,
I'm
okay,
a
the
professional. Yeah.
speedy green.
Um, maybe it's the same brand as my real mower, but it's from Home Depot. But anyway, yeah, it's
Okay,
the normal brand you see on everything.
nice.
Yeah, dude, I'm a 40-year-old dad, Tony. I'm fertilizing my yard.
Is that real mower? Is that like the go-to mower? Is that what you're using?
Well, today I used a gas powered mower.
Okay.
I fired it up because it was thick.
Yeah.
Well, that was yesterday that I did it. But normally, from here on out, I'm gonna stay on top of it. It's gonna be on the real mower.
Okay.
Yeah.
How big is that lot?
I don't know. I think it's a with front and back together. It's a half acre.
Okay. That's a big lot.
Yeah, it's the
Uh,
biggest yard I've had.
yeah, and so you're push mowing it, obviously.
hmm And
It,
I like the battery power weed eater. If I can, I like to stay away from.
dude, I hate battery powered weed eaters.
Really, they die too
Yeah.
quick, or
Yeah,
they don't have enough.
they're just so weak. Yeah, they just
Yeah,
don't have enough.
they're very anemic.
Um,
You got to be judicious with each wheel, with each wind. You're like, oh, I don't need to save that. Back off a little bit.
yeah. Uh, I was about to tell you something that you needed to know, and wouldn't you know it? I forgot what I was going to
Well,
say.
like perfectly on cue, I interrupted you and took away your train of
and,
thought.
and and you stole my idea. Um, oh, I think what it was I used to have one of those real mowers, and it was cool. I liked it, but it used to piss me off so much because any little stick, anything really other than grass would block it up. And it was so frustrating, especially with we had one mature, well, I guess three mature trees in the
Even if
yard.
you get that, is it the Bermuda grass that has like kind of like crabby a little bit, or like
Yep.
yeah,
Yep.
that can even clog it up sometimes if you get a
Yeah.
hold of that.
So you know what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
That's so frustrating
yeah.
because you're just and especially because it's like you're just kind of cruising along and then it's like your brakes just lock up.
And
Yeah. So,
it's otherwise a very even, sharp looking cut.
yeah, I like it.
Like otherwise, it
It's
looks
convenient.
very prim and proper. No gas, no battery.
Yep.
Just
No
fucking
mess.
yeah,
Just and it feels good. It
yeah.
feels it feels like you're doing something.
I want other people to see me doing it. Just
Yeah, that's what I wanted to say, but I didn't want to say it.
I
I felt
want to
like
put on a performance.
I feel
Somebody
like
please fucking drive by and see me right now. I'm flexing my tricep.
I feel like I didn't get enough attention when I did it. So
Yeah.
there there used to be a guy around Derby that rode one of those like 1920s steampunk bicycles. I don't even know how to
Oh, with
describe
the
it.
big front wheel.
Well, I
Did
think
it
it was
have
a
the big
big
front
back.
wheel?
One of the wheels was super big. I don't remember what it was. Probably the front wheel. And so he was sitting 8 feet high or whatever, and he would just wheel around town. Uh, and
What a creep. He had to be. He had to be doing something illegal. What a monster. What a creep.
I mean, but obviously, like you're doing that. You're doing that for attention, right? Like,
Yes. Yeah.
I mean, it would probably be cool, but I just don't know, man. I wouldn't even do it in like I don't know if I would even do it in a private parking lot. Like I'd be,
It
I would,
has to. You have to have a high wall, or in a basketball gym. You have to be somewhere where you know no one is gonna see you. A basketball gym locked, and you got the key on the inside.
but you know
You,
what? I was watching the fights last night with, well, I was watching the fights. My wife was sitting next to me, and it dawned on me,
did you pay
like,
for it? Of course you did.
no,
Yeah.
somebody did. Oh, I'll probably pay for it. I'll pay for it with,
Dude, this is recorded. Of course you paid for it.
yeah, right. Yeah, I'm following. Um, anyway, I was watching the fights last night with my wife, and it dawned on me that even if you lose, like even if you in any of those fighters that were on the card, even if they lose, to be at that level where you're willing get to take that much damage, right? That's a superpower.
Yeah,
Like in the real world, that's a superpower because you can do whatever you want.
they are tough.
You
They're all tough. The
you
worst
can drive
UFC tough.
you can
Yeah.
ride the giant tricycle if you want. You can do whatever you want. And even if you like there was one of the corner guys he was just a goober. Like he was short, dumpy looking, had stupid glasses. Uh, but even that dude, I
Yeah.
guarantee you, it's a superpower. Like even if you tried to start trouble with him, uh, it would just be like I
You
don't
got
know.
to check out the
He can
ears. You
he
see
can
the
do it.
ears, you're like, ugh,
Yeah, he can
rethink
do
this.
whatever he wants. But anyway, um, were you about to say something else?
No, no, I was just what were we talking about? We were talking about the yard,
Yep, yep.
how good it was.
I didn't get enough attention when I used my real mower, so I quit and started
Yeah.
using gasoline again.
Well, it's okay. Sometimes you got to lean into that. If you're like whatever you think you would be embarrassed saying out loud, sometimes in my experience, I can't tell you how it's really worked out in life, but in my experience, if there's sometimes you think, ooh, maybe I shouldn't say that, maybe I shouldn't do that. Go ahead, go ahead,
You know,
do it.
I have been I've been doing that a little bit more here lately.
Yeah,
Within within probably the past year and a half, I've been a little bit more vocal. I think a little more willing to speak my mind.
I'm a little honest.
Yeah, a little more honest. That's kind of what it comes down to is being willing to be honest about what you think or whatever.
Man, I had the opportunity to have a long car ride with a family member that I'm really close on my vacation. I just got back from a 2.5 week vacation. I On this vacation, I had the opportunity to spend time with a family member that I hadn't seen in a long time. We are close, but sometimes there's just long periods of no communication in between. Um, and for whatever reason, I felt that, and I was kind of joking just then. but I do, there is like a tinge of truth in that. I do think you have to strike, or sometimes you have to let the rascal out of the cage. You know what I mean? Sometimes you have to be a little naughty. That's like one version of it. But anyway, I had this family member in the car, and I was thinking, man, there's some deep stuff that I've wanted to say to him for a while, and I don't know if I'm going to get another opportunity, so I need to hurry up and take this opportunity.
Yeah.
So, like 30 minutes into a 4.5 or maybe 5 hour road trip, 45 minutes into a 5 hour road trip, I was like, hey, I need to say something, and just went, blah. And I could tell at first he was like, oh, like he was comfortable, like we were comfortable having this conversation, but I can tell he was like, oh, we're doing that now, okay. Okay, well, like he was like, all right. And I think that's important, and I think sometimes I have stymied that. I've stuffed that down in the past, like with my mom or my parents. Both my parents have passed away, or with friends that have passed away. Another guy I used to work with at Riverine Squadron 2 passed away when I was on this vacation. And that happened like the day before I got back. So, uh, yeah, I think about times where I felt the like the desire to, like, man, I really would like to know what he or she thinks about this one subject, but I never did ask them out of respect or out of maybe bad timing or bad whatever. And then now they're gone, and I'm not, or
Hmm.
maybe they're not gone, but we're just in a position like I've changed careers, he or she or whatever, like we're just never going to speak again.
Yeah.
So in the last couple years, uh, I've just been noticing that because of a bunch of changes. So now I do take the opportunity, I think, to I think it's important to, like, if you got something that you really want to know, or something that you really feel like to get off your chest, go ahead and do it. Even if it's something like I wouldn't feel good, uh I wouldn't, like, I don't want to think about this later on. I don't want to regret not saying this. Go ahead.
Yeah.
Go ahead, say it.
Yeah. I feel like I think pretty consistently they show that one of the greatest regrets, I'm not sure how to word it, that people far more often regret actions they didn't take more than they did, or things they
Hmm.
didn't say more than things they did say. And I feel like it's pretty overwhelmingly, um, statistically, I think it's pretty heavy
Yeah,
that way.
that makes sense. um Something, yeah. So I think about that, uh, how I feel like I have in my past, and sometimes I even get a little judgmental about other people too. Well, I'm like, man, he or she should really say that. They're not doing it. They're not seizing the opportunity. They're, whatever. They need to sack up. Well, this family member that I was having this conversation with, who I felt free to get deep with him real quick, he also was able to call me on some of my bullshit. I was like, oh, really? Yeah, that's all nice. That's all good. But also, you're leaving out these couple details that you conveniently forgot. I'm like, oh, yeah, that is how that happened, huh? And so, yeah, I guess everything's a balancing act.
Yeah.
Uh,
But do you feel like you got what you need? You needed to say something, or you needed to know something?
Oh, I needed to say something to him, and I needed to hear his thoughts, and I needed to have this conversation with him. I needed
Gotcha.
to chew this out. You know
Gotcha.
what I mean? And we did, and
Yeah.
it was really good. Is what I needed. You
Well,
never spend as much time as you want to, but yeah, you never spend as much time as you want to. But
I think
sometimes when you're
it's
on it, you want it to be over with.
yeah. I think it's probably almost 100% of the time, at least 99% of the time, that the conversations I dreaded, uh, just they were either no issue, or they were very short, or they were terrible, and it is what it is.
Yeah.
Like, none of them have killed me, yet
Uh,
I still hate those types of conversations. And I think I told you this, I'm pretty sure I did, that I'll get to a point where, like, if somebody texts me or calls or whatever, and I don't respond right away, because I'll think to myself, I'll get that later, uh,
uh-huh.
and I'll leave it as unread, whatever. Eventually, like 2 or 3 days later, I'll be like, oh, yeah, I probably really ought to get back to this person. But then I'm like, man, it's been 3 days. What a dick. And then I'll wait. And then I'll be like, well, now it's been 7 days. Well, now it's been,
Jeez.
and so from that point on, I just can't, like, I avoid it. Happens all the time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I got to figure that shit out. But I agree with you. I think that's a smart thing to do.
I think people, as far as replying to texts, I think people do notice when you don't do it, but I don't think they're thinking about it days past. Like I think
Right. Because they're probably just like immediately like, oh, okay, dickhead.
some something else is, yeah, they're like, oh, he hasn't replied, he must be busy. Oh, what's this? And something else just takes their attention. Or maybe they might say, oh, what a dickhead, but something else is about to take their attention also.
Yeah.
Like whether they do or whatever kind of feeling they have on it, I think days afterwards you're a-okay.
I mean, honestly, it's silly. Like, I fully know that people just don't, like, people just, unless it's like, unless you're being offensive, or uh, unless there's something else going on.
Uh-huh.
If I don't respond back to you in a couple of days, you're not going to be offended. You're not going to be any of the things that I think.
Hey, sorry, I was busy. Here's what we were talking about. Blah 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 blah. That's all you got to say, right? Is hey, sorry, I was busy.
Oh yeah.
Or
Um,
hey, sorry, it took me a while to get back to you. A B C D.
yeah. I mean, it just hasn't killed me yet, so I need to
Yeah,
just get over it.
dude. What a time to be alive.
What a time. Dang, man. Uh,
Oh, well, did
I
you want to know anything else about the vacation?
tell me what else you got?
Oh, well, I guess I had already. We got back a couple days ago. Um, I potted with you. I uploaded that pod today. I potted
Oh,
with you down there on the back patio. In
yeah.
case you didn't know, we were. I
Is
released
that
that as
okay? I thought we did something. I couldn't remember.
a went to Texas, saw family in Oklahoma, spent some days. I think about 4 or 5 days, 5 days, maybe 6 days there in Kansas, and then 3 days in Arkansas, and then came back
Yeah.
here.
Where at in Arkansas?
You wouldn't know it. It's a town called Cleveland, but it's a little north of a town named Morrilton. Have you ever heard of
Okay.
a town? Have you ever heard
No.
of Morrilton? Yeah, no.
Nope.
Morrilton is
You
west
want
west of Little Rock. Have you ever
you
heard
want to
of a
know what's
town
funny?
named what?
I asked where in Arkansas, but if you ask me where Little Rock is, I don't know. If
Yeah,
you ask me where Fayetteville is, I don't know. I've been to Fayetteville. I don't know. I've been to Little Rock. So really,
they're not near each other. They're nowhere near each
what
other.
I guess the question that I've got is, what part of Arkansas are they in?
So closer to Little Rock, closer toward the center of the state.
Gotcha.
The center
Now,
of the yeah,
is that, are they in the Ozarks, or is that the beginning of
yeah.
the Appalachians?
No, they're very much in the Ozarks. Eastern Arkansas, there's is where it kind of plains out into Memphis. Like
Okay.
Eastern Arkansas, West Tennessee, it's kind of Kansas-esque. It's very flat. Once you get over the Ozarks go all the way in, like the hilly country is all the way into Little Rock. So more than halfway through the state. And
Hmm.
so like, yeah, maybe just past halfway through the state, past Little Rock is where it gets real flat. And on South part too, in the South part where it gets close to Mississippi and Louisiana, it's real flat also. Because we drove through there on the way back. We drove through southern Arkansas, and I'd honestly never driven through southern Arkansas. And we drove through a town named McGee, Arkansas, just north of Mississippi, and it was a historical park there. It's a national park now, but it was where the Japanese internment camps were during World War II.
Okay.
A little piece of history that I don't say is ignored, but is definitely not brought up a ton, is the Japanese internment camps we had during World War II. Not for I mean, some of them were for spies and military members that we found here, but all of it was also just for Japanese American citizens that we didn't trust.
Just
after Pearl Harbor, we're like, we're rounding y'all up.
We're going to keep our eye on you right here.
Right here, actually.
Yeah. You know something that would be cool that maybe somebody's done it. AI could certainly do it. It would be cool to kind of like if you took like a picture, like a drone level view, kind of angled down from the west to the east, or however you wanted to do it, across the U.S., and just to see the different terrain, and or to see it like just from a bird's eye view, just to see the different types, the different terrain, the different features.
Yeah, I've seen that image or images like what you're talking about many times, mostly in like elementary textbooks. But it seems like besides the Great Plains that I think they hypothesized, or maybe they know, was mostly flattened from a mile high sheet of ice. It was from the Great Lakes all the way down. That's what flattened out that part of the country. But besides that, all of North America is pretty mountainous. Like from the Sierra Nevadas way out west, those are kind of like the foothills of the Rockies that stretch from Alaska all the way down to Mexico. Go ahead.
I'm going to say something to you. I'm going to ask a question here, and you got to understand that I'm coming to you as a former homeschool kid, right? There used to be very, very staunch, literal King James believer,
God.
like literal 7-day creation, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I remember that.
So even still, when I drive, like I went to a race in Utah a couple years ago, and the mountains in. Go ahead.
You're gonna remind me. I got a question about the Ice Age. Like I want you to answer from your Southern evangelical thing about the Ice Age. But
well,
you're going. Hold it.
It's
fake. Okay. Well, that's all I need to know. So you're going to a race in Utah, or were you going?
Yeah. So it was one of those Ragnar races, and we were going.
Oh, okay.
And so it was in Zion, and really, as soon as we crossed it was really at the Colorado border, and I wish I could remember the name of that town. Something Junction, maybe. It was just at the border. The mountains changed. Like they went from the Rocky Mountains, like I'd seen all growing up, to just a different type of mountain. It was like a different color of soil. It was like different shapes. It was
different angles.
It was wild, yeah. And so like and so from the border to Zion, and I don't remember how far that was. Like every curve we would go around, I'd be like, "Kids, look at this! Kids, look at this!"
Oh my God!
And I'm like, "Something happened here." And the kids are like, "Dad, we know," but I'd never seen anything like it. It was wild. So here's the question. Okay, coming to you as a former 7-day creationist, 6-day creationist, I guess. The Earth is 6,000 years old. What caused that? What causes those? What do you think causes those pillars? Those like you'll see rocks like this, but then they'll have lines, right? which clearly, in my mind anyway, represent years of soil and erosion and whatnot. But clearly, these things belonged at some point like this, right?
Uh-huh.
So I'm just driving through there, and I'm like, something like catastrophic, something wild must have happened here. But
You
I don't have a framework for it other than Noah's Ark. Like, I don't know what people actually think.
So let me preface this with my bona fides. I have an associate's degree in firearms science, and other than that, I studied criminal justice. I'm not a physicist or a geologist, but and communications and history. But I'll tell you that yeah, that going back to my high school, I was gonna say geography. I don't know. It's tectonic plates that's how mountains are formed from volcanoes and continents coming together. That's the Rocky Mountains are the newest mountains, and it was a pretty violent thing that caused it. It was tech plates on the Earth's surface from the Pacific Ocean colliding with plates on the Earth's surface from the Atlantic Ocean. In fact, most of North America used to be underwater, used to be under ocean. That's why they can find shark teeth in the Appalachian Mountains, megalodon teeth, and great white teeth,
Like,
and rivers in the Appalachians.
they found it's pretty
You
common
can't be out
actually
here.
to find shark teeth out in western Kansas.
Yes, because it was once under an ocean. And
Interesting.
one of the things that brought this continent out from under the ocean was the Pacific plate colliding with the Atlantic plate. And that happened a couple different times, like it's happened in waves. So the oldest mountains in North America are the Ozark Mountains. Let me set this down. Yeah, you need to go inside. The oldest mountains in North America are the Ozark Mountains, and that's why they're the shortest, because they've been eroded the most. The second, I don't know. I'm sure I'm leaving out some
No,
smaller mountain chains.
you said they're the newest, but they've been eroded the most.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if I said the newest. They're the oldest. The Ozarks are the oldest. Second after them, I might be leaving out some, but then there's the Appalachians, which stretch from Maine all the way down to Georgia. Those happened after the Ozarks, but again, before the Rockies. The Rockies, I think was the most. Well, I know it was the most recent one, but it was the biggest one because it's what actually rose the western part of the continent out of the ocean. Was the Pacific and the Atlantic plates colliding together, and so the Pacific is getting pressure from the Ring of Fire, all those volcanoes from like Hawaii and the Philippines and Indonesia and Japan, all that, and even in on the west coast of the United States, all of those volcanoes are forcing the separation of those tectonic plates to where eventually they collide. And you see it in real time in the fault line in California. There's the continental drift in California where they said it could fall off into the ocean.
So first off, if I'm ever on a game show, if I ever have a situation where I need to know something, you are my call. Please be available.
You got
Okay.
it.
Because you just know the most and the thing is you know it so like you're so well versed that I just believe you.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, you can test. You should test a lot of this.
I
Actually, you
don't
should.
I don't want to. I don't want I don't want it to be not true because it was just you say it so eloquently. Uh,
I'm a
so
I'm a master in the lost art of bro science. Bro, you don't know this?
yes, I did know this. So were those collisions like you're talking like prehistoric? Uh,
Yeah, definitely. Because up until that point, so what North America rose out. The last great big one was the creation of the Rocky Mountains, like I said, that stretched from Alaska. Technically, if you look at it, and I'll get into this because it plays into our story too. It plays into how man came to North America, or at least one of the ways that man came to North America. You know, by the knowledge that we have. Um, a big like river of glaciers from the North Pole basically to the Gulf of Mexico. Glaciers came and was forced down and flattened all of North America, which otherwise would have had mountains itself on it, except those mountains were pushed down. They say that because they've seen the same collision marks, like through Kansas and through, Montana, Nebraska, and all that, or maybe not Montana, but Nebraska, and up and down the Great Plains. There's the same telltale signs that created the mountains, except the mountains aren't there. And they say it's from a giant mile-high sheet of ice that stretched from the Rockies basically to the Appalachians. So how that plays into our story is this number is getting rewritten here in the last couple of years, and it's pretty interesting because at first it was like alternative history. Since the 40s, I believe, most of mainstream academia has come to the conclusion that man has been in North America around between 13 and 12,000 years ago is when they crossed the Bering Land Strait from Siberia into Alaska. And they say that at that time, most of North America was still under that ice wall. So there was a hypothetical ice-free corridor that there's no evidence of, but they say, oh, there must have been an ice-free corridor because there's signs of man in like Mississippi and Arkansas and Louisiana, and even in South America at the time that North America was still under ice. So the story is the classical story, and I'm sure I'm not wise enough to contradict this, but I'll just say there's alternative history points out there from very intelligent people, and some of them have been confirmed in the last 3 or 4 years. The conventional story was that about 12,500 years ago, the first people came across the Bering Land Bridge from Siberia, probably in waves. It wasn't just one group of people, it was multiple generations of people. I've heard a guy, he wrote Coyote America, and he wrote The American Serengeti. I can't remember. Anyway, he's a doctor. He said that people probably didn't even know they were traveling on this land bridge. Like they had generations of families on this land bridge that they were just following the herds. They were nomadic hunter-gatherer people. They were just following the animals. So the mammoths were going back and forth. The elk and the caribou still go back and forth across ice bridges, on the North Pole. They're just following animals. So that's how they believe that the first man came in there. Problem is that some of the oldest signs of man, and besides bones and actual skeletons, what they use as signs for men are tools and fires. They like fires and like burnt animal remains, like intentional. Like they look for pots, they look for tools, they look for burnt animals around camp. They look for these big kill sites. So that's how they find some of this evidence for man. It's not always like they're not always finding a femur. They're not always finding a skeleton there. Sometimes they're just finding a tool, and they carbon date that tool, and like, I'll be damned, this one's 12,500 years, but it's in this place where they shouldn't have been able to get to. So how did they get here? Around the 40s is when I believe it was around the 40s. I know it was around the turn of the century, because there's these two different arrowheads that played into it. But that's when they figured on around 12,500 years ago is when men first came here. And they figured that it had to be an ice-free corridor because they knew that the continent was flattened. Like that was already well-established science, that the Great Plains had been flattened by glaciers. Like there's evidence for that. And there's really evidence for the ocean that was here afterwards, which is why you find shark teeth in Kansas.
Yeah.
But there's a couple big names. Dan Flores is that guy, the author I was thinking of. Even he has said that there's new evidence for to suggest that humans were here as early as 29,000 years ago, and which radically changes the 12,500 years ago, 29, and then that it's still being peer reviewed, but there are signs in North America and Brazil, I believe, for human activity as far back as like 60,000 years ago. And what's unique about South America is there's biological science is a big part of this too, especially since there's been gene mapping, ever since they've learned to uh, separate RNA and DNA. I believe, yeah, since they've been able to map the chromosome, there's been a bunch of research in North America and South America for first people, and really all around the world. But both North and South American indigenous people share something like 98% of the same genetics, except for there are some genetics that are specific to South America and the indigenous people and show up rarely in North America, but around the Gulf area, which suggests, we know that there was island hopping back at that time. That's how there were Indians on the island whenever Columbus landed in Cuba, the Taino people. So we know that they were seafaring people. But there's this gene marker that's found just in people in South America and some of the Mississippian Indian people, like I said, around the Gulf in the United States. And that is this Australasian gene, not this northern Siberian gene. And so what there's evidence of that Graham Hancock and a bunch of these alternative historians say is that's evidence of transmigration from Australasia, from the Philippines and from Indonesia and from those the Hawaiian people, those Indonesian seafaring people. We know they were seafaring, they sailed everywhere. This is evidence that gene marker is evidence. Last I had heard, that had not been widely accepted in mainstream academia, but they're always slow to accept anything, and they're definitely slow to accept something from someone outside of the club, from someone outside that doesn't have a doctor, isn't part of this Ivy League prestigious thing. They're slow and pretty aggressive toward that, pretty antagonistic toward that. But anyway, yeah, that's a short history of the peopling and formation of North and South America.
Sorry, just had a text come through. Yeah, dude, I don't even know. I don't even know how and you still have such a good personality too. It's not like it's not like you have to sacrifice well, at least you're smart. No, man. You're smart and you got a good personality.
I make up for it in other ways.
You got it going on.
Well, you see this hairline, and not everyone thinks I got it going on. But yeah, dude, that is so cool. What I really love about that story is it shows there's so much more into that too. Dan Flores has this podcast. He's on the Meat Eater Network that I really suggest people to go check out. He is mainstream academia. So he checks all the boxes. He was a mainstream journalist and he became a doctor, was a professor, and he focuses on natural histories of North America. So more like coyotes and wolves, less cowboys in Civil War, more on the natural history. He has a podcast that's really informative. And if anyone who's into podcasting, I think, would know Joe Rogan. Joe Rogan has a constant guest, a guy named Graham Hancock, who has a ton of literature. And he also interviews and even writes books in correlation with other mainstream academic guys and gals, like doctors, bona fides. But a lot of his views is definitely not opposite of mainstream academia, but is just alternative history, like the idea of people being in North America before 12,500 years ago. Up until a couple years ago, that was considered crazy. Only stupid people believe that. It's called Clovis first. It was the idea was that there was a specific type of arrowhead called a Clovis point that was found in New Mexico, but arrow points like that have been found in southern North America and even in South America, and those all date back to 12,500 years ago. And that's why they said, oh, that's it. The earliest we could have been here is 12,500 years ago, almost as if they were we're going to concede this much, but no further. Because before that, it was they were just stepping out of the young earth theology that had dominated biology. So they were trying to get out of the narrative that the earth was only 6,000 years old. And they had
Yeah.
actually been getting out of that for the past 100 years, but there was still a lot of that baked in.
Was
Go ahead.
that ever mainstream? The Earth being 6?
Definitely before Darwin.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was one of the things. There were other natural scientists and I mean other people that were less dogmatic, but I would say the bulwark of academia was still very dogmatic in the young Earth theology until new guys like Charles Darwin and his contemporaries started chiming in, and that was
Yeah.
in the 1800s.
Yeah.
And we're
Well,
not very far away from that, especially in evolutionary terms.
I don't know if you know this or not, but when Charles Darwin on his deathbed,
Oh
he said to his daughter that he wished he'd have chosen Christ, and he could tell that he was about to go to hell. Did you know that?
no! Oh, I had heard that story many times. I just don't know how bona fide that is.
Well, I heard it, so you might want to do something with that information.
I mean, I think you can still have both. You can still have. Actually, I know you can still have Christ and evolution.
Hmm.
Um, so I mean, people need to stop talking about this Jeffrey Epstein guy and just
Who?
move. Are we still talking about this creep?
What a loser! He's dead, right? I mean,
Yeah, he
there's not.
obviously killed himself.
Well, you're not going to charge him with anything else. Let it go.
Yeah, what are we gonna do? Dig him back up?
Ghislaine, I mean, she's. Oh, wait a second. What's up with her?
Oh, they just recently. I found out, or I saw an article today that a federal judge had told her that she's not allowed to talk about her case, like under her punishment, under her sentencing, she's not allowed to speak about her case. So she had volunteered to spill the beans on the client list.
Uh,
And so I had been following that. Like she had even spoken with someone, I believe from the New Yorker, like through a jail video call, and was like, "Hey, I'll tell you all the clients if you want." And I believe that was the last I had heard of it. And then today I seen an article where her sentencing judge, the federal judge from that New York district, like basically reminded her, "You're not allowed to talk about anything to do with your case, and if you do, there will be consequences."
I mean,
Freedom of speech, right?
what? I wonder what kind of time is she looking at?
I think she only got sentenced to something like 12 years.
So, could she not just violate the judge's order, deal with whatever deal with whatever happens, and then after the fact, she would get pardoned by somebody else? Like,
She's not going to get pardoned. She's going to get dead in there. I get,
well, I mean, she needs to do it. They need to do it quickly, is what I'm saying, before
yeah,
she does get got.
yeah. She's gonna commit suicide or commit. I might need to block that out.
Hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
dude, I just somebody
So
asked me the
do
other.
you think that it's important that we remember it? Like, I guess that's a
Yeah,
legitimate question now because there's so many people that are saying that we should move on. So like,
well, now, like like are normal people saying we should move on, or you're talking about like politicians and celebrities and people that are on the list?
celebrity saying we need to move on. Let me X and go find some bug spray because I'm on my back patio and my toesies are
Yeah,
getting eaten up.
okay, dude, I saw a video the other. Oh, uh, okay, celebrities that say we need to move on, TikTok, and Holy Spirit activate. Okay,
Okay, all right.
those things.
You need to turn your camera back to side. Holy Spirit, activate. Come in.
Are there so other than politicians and people that are on the list, are people actually saying that we should move on?
Yeah. So Charlie Kirk is social media. Uh, he's a conservative influencer. I thought he was a childhood actor. I brought that up to you before, but you questioned it. Am I getting him confused with someone else?
No, I think you're right because I think my mom was saying that the other day, and she didn't know what he was on, but she thought the same thing.
It was something. It was one of the family sitcoms of the late '80s, early '90s, like Step by Step, but before Step by Step, like one of the ones
Step by
by Step.
oh man, I remember that. I remember that show.
But
The
it wasn't Step by Step. It was before that Charlie Kirk
but
was on.
Step by Step was a spinoff, I believe, of a different show.
We're losing
But
it. We're losing it.
yeah, yeah. Sorry. So Charlie Kirk. Okay, so he's
Charlie Kirk.
obviously he's bought and paid for, right? Like he's clearly got an ulterior motive, right?
And
Or no?
so, I don't know. I mean, he's a douche. I don't want to be dismissive of him, but he says things and his behavior has been very suspect where he's obviously, I guess, bought and paid for. Yeah, he's bought and paid for because he has posts from last year saying Trump is going to release Epstein. We need this. Posts from 2 years ago slamming the Democrats for not releasing it. Posts from even before that about how big of a deal Jeffrey Epstein is and we should never forget. To now he's saying, Jeffrey who? I think we need to move on.
Yeah.
So obviously
Yeah.
he's getting a check. There were there was a vote. So there was a bunch of social media conservative influencers and a bunch of politicians that said, hey, we need to follow, because that's what Trump said. Trump said, hey, let's move on. And there was Thomas Massey and AOC came together, Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez came together and proposed this bill to release everything about Jeffrey Epstein. And like Trump said, we're not going to release anything of it. And so Thomas Massey and AOC proposed this bill like, hey, why don't you go ahead and show us everything? If there's nothing to hide, show us it all. Because they said that there was nothing. Kash Patel and Pam Bondi came out and said that there was nothing. And
Did Pam Bondi ever clarify what she was talking about when she said that it was on her desk?
yeah, I've heard her. Maybe it was an X post, but it was along the lines of I was referring to all of the subpoenas and all of the procedural documents that were on my desk. I wasn't referring to any specific list. And I've also heard it articulated recently because I've been listening to a lot of folks talk about this, a lot of smart people. That there's probably not a list of clients. There's probably not a ledger that is like Donald Trump, 15-year-old, 23rd May,
Yeah,
1987. Right. There's probably not a ledger like that. But what it is the totality of the evidence. Luckily, a lot of that has already came out, already is public over the years. And man, I say that like I'd had something prepared. I don't. But I've been listening to a lot of people talk about the documented, like what we know, the known victims, the known clients, like Prince Andrew visited him many times in the island and was seen getting massages by 15-year-olds. Same thing with Bill Clinton.
Have any of the victims named names?
Yes. Something Giuffre. I'm sorry, I can't remember her name, but it was something Giuffre. Was a French teenager. She said she was the one who specifically named Prince Andrew. There was other victims that specifically named Bill Clinton and other CEOs of banks. There was many victims who named Lex.
Wexner or Wexner?
Yes, yeah, Les Wexner, who was the CEO of Victoria's Secret, who gave Jeffrey Epstein a $47 million townhouse in New York, gave Jeffrey Epstein the second largest mansion in Ohio. Les Wexner owned the first largest mansion in Ohio, gave Jeffrey Epstein power of attorney, not limited power of attorney, but power of attorney over his entire estate for like 12 years. Jeffrey Epstein took hundreds of millions of dollars that were out of Les Wexner's estate and never gave it back to him.
Les Wexner's. Yeah. So what's his history? Les Wexner. What's he connected to?
So Les Wexner got involved with Jeffrey Epstein when Jeffrey Epstein was working at Bear Stearns Company in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s. And what he was doing there was advanced money marketing strategies. And if you look into what that means, is he was helping these rich people hide their money for tax purposes or for money laundering. He was helping these people hide money because, like, even still, Bank of America is still getting busted, funding or holding the money for Mexican cartels and for terrorists around the world. They don't care who they get their money from. They're just interested in the money.
They're like they're like the West Kellogg Motel.
Yes.
Like, listen, I don't care what you do in the room. You're gonna find a room somewhere.
Yeah, you can have a Bible study in there, or you can do
$46, please.
Exactly. That's how those banks were. So Jeffrey Epstein was working for Bear Stearns Bank in the late 70s, and that's where he got connected to Les Wexner. That's also where he got connected to Robert Maxwell, which is really important. And he also got connected to this, man, I can't remember his name now. I was listening to it. This Israeli fella who was an Israeli arms dealer, and Stephen Hosberg at Bear Stearns. And that's where he got a bunch of money from people in like an insurance Ponzi scheme.
I thought that he was
Ari Ben Menashe is that Israeli guy. Sorry.
Isn't he connected to Israeli intelligence?
Yeah, by Robert Maxwell and by a bunch of these people I'm about to lay out.
Wexner is
Lex Wexner. Oh, I don't know about him, but I know Robert Maxwell and that Ari Ben Ganache guy is.
I felt like there was some kind of connection. Like he was in the league. Important.
Yeah, he's in this league of like the real Illuminati. They call themselves Mega, that Robert Maxwell was into, and it's basically this group of like 30 millionaire Jews.
Let's explain who he is, but we'll start back up. I don't remember where we left off. Do you remember?
Oh, well, I was talking about Epstein working with that Ari Ben Ganache.
Okay, I'm gonna let you take it.
Okay. Epstein was working with Ari. Some of that I'm sure we're probably gonna bleed in. Was working with this guy named Ari Ben Ganache that was an Israeli weapons trafficker. Fast forward to like 1984, there's a documented flight with this MI6 civilian, and so that's an interesting point too, is he probably never was employed by the CIA. He probably never received a check from or a name badge and was in a database. His taxes were never paid by the CIA on a W-2. When these allegations of him and his relationship, they're more like, have you seen that movie God of War or Lord of War with Nicolas Cage? Where there's these people all around the world that are like fixers, like they do the dirty work, like what USAID says we do the work that the CIA used to do, as far as like weapon smuggling, money laundering, money transfers. That's the kind of people like this Ari Ben Ganache guy was for Israel. This fellow who worked at the MI6, and I forget his name. But in the 80s, like 84, there's a flight of him flying into the Pentagon, like traveling to the Pentagon to have a meeting with staff there with this MI6 civilian fixer, like this guy who would arrange, like, oh, you have a rebel group in South America that needs a taxi, I can arrange that. Oh, they need some Glocks, I can set that up. Oh, they need a passport, okay, I can do that. That's what these kind of guys were.
Yeah.
Well, he kind of got the perfect training for that as the strategic money manager guy at Bear Stearns. That's where he was learning how to hide people's money. That's where he got in contact with these weapon smugglers and these people that had known intelligence connections, like Robert Maxwell. Robert Maxwell was a magazine owner and kind of like a media tycoon guy in England. And he employed Jeffrey Epstein, I believe, at Bear Stearns in that same capacity of like hiding, helping a homie out so he doesn't have to pay so much taxes. And also, Robert Maxwell has had an interesting history because he was from Czechoslovakia, was a Jew in Eastern Europe, was kicked out of his homeland by the Nazis, relocated to England, joined the English Army, was an infantryman, received the second highest award in the military from England. It's like equivalent to our Navy Cross, is the only thing under the Medal of Honor. He received that for them. They say he spoke 9 languages, but even if he only spoke 5 languages, that would be pretty damn impressive.
Yeah.
But spoke many languages. He got out of the military, kind of floundered on this or that, joined English. It wasn't MI6, but it was like the predecessor, like their version of the OSS after World War II, because he spoke all these languages. Did work for them for a little bit, got out, worked for Israeli intelligence as this contractor, kind of in the same capacity, like as a language barrier, as someone who had English contacts, as someone who had English ties. And at that time, Israel was actually attacking members of England. Like that was part of their separation, the forming of the state of Israel. If you look into that, it's pretty violent toward everyone. So he worked for them in that capacity, and then became an Israeli citizen, I believe, and then became an English citizen again. And that's when he came back to England. All of a sudden, he was a billionaire. That's when he started these magazine companies. That's when he started these fashion, got into fashion, got into all this stuff.
This is Maxwell.
Yes, Robert Maxwell. So someone who was a known intelligence asset for both England and Israel. After he died, he was buried in the state of Israel. They gave him he was buried on this hill where basically only presidents are buried. It's buried facing west toward the Wailing Wall. It's like this very prestigious spot. They obviously revered him. That's where Jeffrey Epstein gets involved with him, is at Bear Stearns. Robert Maxwell introduces him to his daughter, Ghislaine Maxwell, or Ghislaine Maxwell. They become, I think at one point they were engaged, but they were on and off again, like lifetime boyfriend, girlfriend. They were business partners. Officially, he owned a company that was a money management company. He had no license. He was not a regulated stockbroker. He was not a regulated anything. He only had one known client, and that was that Ari Ben Ganache guy. And that's kind of how I've heard it explained that that's how they do things. They start these LLC companies, and basically it'll have one client, and that'll be this weapons guy. That's how they launder their money. It's another tactic of them laundering their money. That was officially, so when you hear people say, and they still throw it out because no one listens to the real story, I guess, but they say Jeffrey Epstein was a money guy. He did this or did that. Yeah, he had clients when he was at Bear Stearns, but he left Bear Stearns for ethical violations. They said he was about to be fired, so they gave him the opportunity to leave, and he left. That's when Jeffrey Epstein started this company. I forget what it's called. It's 3 letters. It's like, I couldn't even tell you right now, but it's like ABC, Jeffrey Epstein. And his only client was that Ari Ben Ganache guy, that weapons trafficker from Israel. So when they say Jeffrey Epstein was a money guy, that's the only thing that ties him to money. His history of washing money at Bear Stearns, and he was only at Bear Stearns for like 4 years. It was like 4 or 6 years, but it was less than 10 years he was at Bear Stearns, and then he had started this company where he only had one client. That's his official way of making money. But he also, Lex Westman or whatever, what's his last name?
I think it's Wexner.
Wexner.
I think. I could be wrong.
I can tell you a license plate that drove past me at 40 miles an hour, but sometimes I can't tell you like what your first name is. Like that's just how my brain works sometimes. But yeah, he gave him a $47 million townhome, and this is the '80s, 47 million. So like with appreciation, that's got to be hundreds of millions of dollars today. Townhome in Manhattan, gave him the second largest mansion in Ohio. That's how he actually had two islands in the US Virgin Islands. One of them was the famous Epstein Island. The other one was an island where Ghislaine said that's where they kept their art. So whatever means art, that's where they kept it. And he didn't bring his guests there. That wasn't an entertainment island. So he got all of these things, and the only thing he officially did for money was he had Ari Ben Ganesh as one client. They said he was a financial advisor, and he had like a 4 or 6 year career at Bear Stearns in the early '80s, and he was a math teacher for like a year before that at a high school in Brooklyn. So all of he gets convicted in 2006 and in 2008, I believe, of sex trafficking and of rape and sexual molestation of a minor, like sexual misconduct of a minor, sex trafficking, prostitution. He gets convicted of all these heinous things. I can't remember his name. I'm having a brain fart right now, but whatever.
Has it been going on that long?
Yeah. That's when he was first convicted, 2006 and 2008. And that was of sex trafficking, money laundering, prostitution, gambling, prostitution, and blackmail. Like he was convicted of these things in a federal court. And his sentence was like 18 months arrest in county jail, but he only had to serve one night a week in the jail. He had access to come and go as he pleased. He had because of like a stipulation in his sentencing, they said he could leave for house arrest, but he owned multiple homes. So like he would leave on a Monday, be gone from jail, and show back up on Saturday to spend the night in jail Saturday night, and then leave for whatever Sunday morning and be gone again. That was in this county jail in Florida. And I believe it was Miami-Dade County Jail in Florida. He had this whole wing, and he had security. The employees of the wing he paid for, so he paid the staff. It's kind of like Pablo Escobar, except this was America in Miami, in the U.S. In the early 2000s. This was going on. This wasn't the '80s of Pablo Escobar. This was the United States. So he gets so that was in 2008. He gets brought up again on new charges. Like basically the sentencing that he got there was he got this house arrest, and he had to pay something back like 27 million, and he had even joked that was money that he owed members of the government anyway. He was like, "Oh yeah, I owed that anyway." So he gave him like 27 million. And the conditions of this sentencing was that he was going to have immunity from any other crimes that were brought up in relation to this sentencing from past, present, and future allegations and victims and witnesses. So, like, he got future immunity from past, present, and future allegations in connection with this case, which was his sex trafficking, child abuse, money laundering, bribing, or whatever, corruption.
Wow.
The only thing that changes is there's a new U.S. attorney that wants to actually have him put back in jail, and so there's like this loophole found. That's why in 2019 he killed himself, or anyway he found himself back in jail, and it was because like this loophole that he found. And it was the allegations were all going to be tied back in there, which were like none of the victims, or some of the victims had been released at that point, but none of his associates had been released. but many of his victims had already named associates, like that Jeffrey gal named Prince Andrew, and other people had named President Clinton. And yeah, there was a CEO of Bank of America and Deutsche Bank. I shared it on the Lawless Podcast page, but he had asked for Snow White and said that he likes him young, like in emails between him and Jeffrey Epstein. This guy isn't in jail. They just said, "Oh, look at this, all this shit between this guy, this creep, and Jeffrey Epstein," and he was like, "Oh," and that's it.
So, but I'm trying to wrap my head around. This happened in 2006.
Is when he's first convicted.
And and is it the same?
We don't even have the evidence. So so that's why there probably is no evidence. We're probably not going to learn anything new, because how the warrants were written for the 2006 and 2008 convictions were that they gave him notice that they were going there. They're like, there's going to be a warrant on your house at this day. You better have all evidence pertaining to this thing there. And they did that. They even served warrants on the U.S. Virgin Island. Like the FBI went down and raided his compound in the Virgin Island, but he got advance notice. And
can just pause for just a second. Can we just imagine that somebody somewhere in this link in this progression actually cares about their job? Okay, so let's say that you are the detective writing the search warrant. Okay, and somebody tells you, "Hey, we got to give him 2 weeks notice to prepare, to prepare for the warrant." I would lose my absolute mind. Like I would probably lose my job, but I would absolutely lose my mind. I wouldn't finish the warrant.
Well, that's when you have to remember he has had ties since the 80s to the CIA, and by proxy, that's all American intelligence. Which is the FBI, the Department of Justice, depends on all the intelligence offices. He's had ties to the Department of Defense, to the intelligence. He's had ties to MI6, to Mossad. Robert Maxwell was an agent of Mossad. He was also an asset of MI6. He's had other direct ties to MI6. He's had other direct ties to CIA. It probably wasn't an investigator that wrote the search warrant. It was probably a station chief or whatever the step is above a station chief. Like it was someone connected that called him and said, "Hey, Jeff, just so you know, our hands are tied. This is getting leaked to the media. We have to do something." Bullshit. I know, Mr. Jeff, but listen, we're going to go down there. And when? In 2 weeks, okay? Oh, make it fair, well, whatever,
Right.
Like
Yeah.
that's probably how it went down. And that's easy to all of this of course is theory, because there's not gonna be, I mean, that was 20 years ago. That was 20 years ago that search was done. There's no evidence left.
So
I can tell you how evidence gets destroyed from a county level.
Yeah.
For real.
Yeah. For real. I just don't. So I don't know what we do about it, but it blows my mind that it's. I want to say that it's just okay. It's not that it's okay. Like people are becoming up in arms, but even still, nothing's going to happen.
Well, why? Well, here's another thing that I think people should not forget. Hopefully that they're not. I know not everyone is, but Trump campaigned for 4 years. He said he was going to try to do his first term, but he campaigned on releasing all the Epstein files. He campaigned on releasing all information with Epstein, and then at the end he was getting ballsy and threw in Martin Luther King and JFK.
Yeah.
But he said for years that he was going to do it. All of his pundits said this is the top priority because they criticized Biden for not doing it. They were trash talking Biden and Kamala and Obama for covering for Epstein. Well, something that's blatant and in our faces is that right now, Donald Trump is telling you literally to stop talking about Jeffrey Epstein. So it should be apparent with anyone who can connect a dot, you know what I mean? Anyone who has a critical thinking mind, that something happened because he changed. And why would he change? You need to ask
Now,
why, especially when you go over his long relationships with Jeffrey Epstein, like his personal relationship. They
yeah,
said
but
he's never been to the island.
so the initial thought is, that anybody that is going to be any connection is guilty by association, right? The initial thought is that if you flew on the jet, if you went to the island, you did whatever is done on the island. And that's probably not fair, but that's at least the assumption. I wonder. Um, I don't know where I was going with that.
You're talking, I believe, on like how it is that you get in there because you were talking about like if you flew on the jet or maybe you, even if you didn't. I
Yeah,
think
but
you're,
what are we talking about?
uh, I think we were talking about associates of Jeff. Like I was going to say, Trump was a known associate for many years, and that's probably why he got these deals. That's why he got the sweetheart deal, and he got all these favors.
I'm ready.
Uh,
I wonder, like, people like Trump. So you just assume that if he's on the list, he did something naughty, right?
I don't think
But
you have to assume that, but he was an
but
associate, right?
that is going to be the assumption. But Trump knew his ties. He knew his ties already when he was saying, "I'm going to release everything."
I think
So
because he knew there wasn't shit to release.
so I guess what I'm saying is what I'm seeing is people saying, "Well, yeah, it's because Trump found out he's on the list." Well, no, he would have known he was on the whatever list he's talking about because he knew his connections. So I guess the question is what changed? And that's what you're saying. I don't think that whatever it is that changed, I don't think it's that he found out that he's on the list. I think he would have known perfectly well that he was on the list.
Well, isn't the timing just so convenient? I mean, again, this is where the theory comes into conspiracy theory. So do me a favor and strap on your tinfoil hat. But Israel, the U.S. is negotiating peace talks between Iran and the rest of the world, trying to bring them back into this international agreement of direct, or of turning down their plutonium or their uranium, trying to get them to be nice as far as nuclear stuff. And by all accounts, the negotiations are progressing. Yeah, they've stalled or they slowed down here or there, but no one said that it's over with. No one said that we're done talking. While the U.S. is having these negotiations with Iran and the rest of the world for all purposes, Israel starts a war against Iran, and they're the last. This is This is a lot to get into, but Iran's the last country that basically Israel and the U.S. have had planned to take down, including Iraq, Afghanistan, Syria, Lebanon, all these countries, Kuwait, Qatar, all these countries where we have had regime change wars, either by proxy or direct forces. Um, it was the list of seven, and it was part of this clean break doctrine from the late 90s, but it kicked off with September 11th. Iran was the last one on the list. The U.S. is um, making progress toward getting Iran to come back to the table and join in the cool kids club as far as playing nice with everyone. And Israel attacks them unprovoked and like takes out almost all members of their parliament, almost all members of their top Congress, all of their military, like the top generals. Now the second in command, I think the only one spared was the prime minister who was at a house he wasn't supposed to be at. The house he was supposed to be at got rocketed, got a missile attack. The prime minister, the Ayatollah Khomeini, their supreme religious figurehead, and a couple other people, like like all of the civilian scientists, including their families. Like these people were at home with their wife and their children, and in apartment complexes. A lot of them were in high rise apartments. So, assumingly, at least a dozen for every one target, there was at least a dozen civilians, but otherwise innocent bystanders killed, probably more. And I mean, there were signs of that coming out anyway, but then Benjamin Netanyahu makes his fourth trip to the United States since Donald Trump has taken office. Benjamin Netanyahu visits President Trump, and that's when Kash Patel and Dan Bongino come out and say, Epstein, there's nothing to Epstein. There never was anything about Epstein. He wasn't blackmailing anyone. He didn't have a list, and he killed himself. That's when Kash Patel come out about that. While Benjamin Netanyahu is visiting Donald Trump that same week, reporters bring it up and say, shouldn't we look into his ties to other international intelligence organizations? Which I think is a pretty baller question to ask Donald Trump while he's at a table with Bibi Netanyahu. Mm-hmm. And Trump literally says, Jeffrey Epstein? Are we still talking about Jeff Epstein? That creep? Look, and so that's when he said, are we still talking about it? Since then, it had changed to, it was a hoax by the Democrats. It was invented by Barack Obama and Hillary Clinton. Back to, I think, there never was anything. Like, we've done this circle of stop talking about it. It was invented by the Democrats to there never was anything.
What are the likely, what are the likely scenarios, do you think?
Oh, I mean, like the victims had been alleging since they first started coming out in the early 2000s, that he was running a blackmail ring, a blackmail operation, including a lot of wealthy and powerful people for the purposes of leveraging that information for money. He had the strategy called playing in the box. And what he would do, like what he did allegedly, what happened with Les Wexner, I think we can start to connect the dots when I explain this. But he did it with these other people, and he allegedly learned this at Bear Stearns that was his doctorate school, was Bear Stearns.
Gotcha.
What he would do is he would get these low or no interest loans from these very powerful people. The only kind of loans that billionaires can give, like even heads of banks can't give these loans. He would get these or talk you into giving power of attorney, giving him power of attorney over your entire state, like he did with Les Wexman, or invest over $100 million, like he did for Robert Maxwell, and that Israeli guy that what I was talking about. All these people gave him large sums of money, and what he said he would do is he would get them at low or no interest rates, and whenever they came to collect, he would have at this point dirt on them. Like, are you sure you want me to tell? Are you sure you want to make an ethics violation complaint on me after I tell them about those weapons you bought for the Iran-Contra? That's another thing. He was directly involved in the Iran-Contra affair, which is what I want my next Exhibit A to be on. But which is where the CIA sold weapons to Iran, which we had a direct embargo on. We were forbidden to do so. So by the letter of the law, it was treason, but they did so through Israel as a proxy. And the people who were setting that up were guys like Robert Maxwell, that Abu Nagrif guy, and Jeffrey Epstein, and a bunch of people. Like, this was an international operation, but those three were directly involved in getting weapons to an enemy of the state, Iran at the time. Like, this was after they had kidnapped our hostages and held them for 44 days. They were a terrorist. They were persona non grata. Like, this is after they had done that. We sold weapons to them. We used Israel to do that, so we could use that money to arm Contras in South America for regime change wars. The CIA was forbidden to do that after laws passed in the 60s. They weren't technically allowed to engage in regime change wars, so they had to get money for it. And the money that they used was this money from Iran. This was Operation Treadstone. Colonel Oliver North was in the Marine Corps. He actually went to prison for this. And I don't hold I don't hold him in ill regards about that. From what I understood, he was a middleman, like he was following orders. It was the criminals that okayed this, and this was Reagan. This was the great white Republican hope. This was that guy
Yeah.
sitting on a hill. This was
Not
Reagan did that.
not only have I lost faith in current government, I've lost faith in the previous government as well.
Yeah,
So that doesn't surprise me.
yeah. I mean, there are no good
So
guys.
so so most people, I think, believe the story is that he was like a human trafficker or sex creep, maybe even kidnapper, like where the girls come from, kind of thing.
Hmm.
But really, what it sounds like is um, he's more of an asset of a government.
Yes, of multiple governments. He's the guy who lives on a Virgin Island that gets a phone call, says, "Hey Jeff, we need your help with this," and he says, "I'm on it." And he hangs up and gets on the Lolita Express and flies to Manhattan and has a party, brings some entertainment, brings a little booger sugar for him back then, gets him on camera doing naughty things. And so whenever they're going to go to testify in Congress, someone else will come up with a briefcase and pictures and say, "Hey, I don't want you to vote yes on this. Remember what you did with Carla in New York back then?"
Right? Does your wife know?
He's the guy. He's the guy that made that happen. That's what his victims were saying, had been
Okay.
saying for over 20 years. Is that's what he would do. That's why Prince Andrew was there. That's why Bill Clinton was there. That's why Steve Gates or Bill Gates, sorry, Bill Gates was there, and that's why.
If
Yeah.
there is a Steve Gates, he's probably like, "Hey,
Hey, wait, what the what? Yeah,
honey, I was not."
that's why he had been partying with Trump. I mean, Trump's on record saying that he knows he likes them young.
Yeah.
So I mean, no one has said that. None of the victims that I had heard of had named Trump as himself being on there, but
Well,
Trump knew what was going on.
so one of the things I'd heard is that if you had spent any time at the island, that you had like you couldn't not know what was going on.
Yeah.
I don't know if obviously I don't know if that's true because I haven't spent any time on the island.
I had heard the flight described as uh you come in and these like and from what I've heard, not to be offensive, but these aren't prepubescent girls. These are like the youngest one was 12, but they said mostly like 13, 14, 15-year-old girls. Imagine that you're in a flight and there's another. These are also sick people, I think.
Yeah,
But
that's not.
you're
Go
in a
ahead.
flight and you lay down on like a massage chair, and these young girls come out in bikinis, or it's really whatever. If you liked thick Puerto Ricans, these thick Puerto Ricans would come out. Evidently, a lot of his clients were creeps, so he got 13, 14, 15-year-old girls.
Where
That's
did they come from?
from where do they come from? They come from no family, single broken homes. They come from addicts. They come from the wrong side of the
So,
tracks.
so he
Just
was using because and so this is taking place in West Palm Beach, right?
part of it. He was recruiting from Ohio. He recruited some girls from the Midwest, but one of
Was
the
he
girls,
just was he
one
just
of,
using regular old pimps
no, he was using
or
Ghislaine.
madams, I guess?
He was using Ghislaine to go to these parties and recruit these troubled girls. And how they would do it is they would first get them. Ghislaine, one of the victims testified to this, that said Ghislaine would um, meet a girl at a party, and it was a girl that would fit the type. Obviously, she was attractive. She was
What
like,
type of party?
these are teenage parties, like maybe sorority parties, or maybe the parties that high schoolers are sneaking off to, or clubs that underage. This is also in the 80s.
Okay.
Um,
I'm,
but this victim said that she would first get offer you $200 for a massage, and so it would be like a 15-year-old girl, and like, hey, obviously it would be a girl that obviously doesn't have any money, but like, hey, you need any money? I know where you can make $200, and this is in the early 80s, in the mid 80s. $200, imagine, must be at least $600 now. And so imagine a 15-year-old get nowhere teenage girl, and this obviously hot older girl comes up and says, "Hey, I know where you can make $200. You just have to go in this room and give this old guy or give this guy a massage." And a lot of times it was they would start him off on Jeff himself, and he was a young man or younger. He was in I think in his 40s in the 80s or maybe his late 30s. So yeah, he had to be in his 30s because he was in his 20s in the 70s. So he was in his 30s in the 80s. This girl would get $200 to come in and give him a massage, and by then he would just up it the stakes from there. But he would also get these girls to do their recruiting for him. Like, hey, bring your friend. I can tell her we're going to have a party. There's going to be a bunch of guys there. Get some friends that are willing to give massages. They'll each get $200. And then when they're there, hey, you want to make an extra 100? You know.
Yeah. Okay.
And so they would start buying purses and shoes, like how pimps do. They start buying purses and shoes and get them on drugs and say, hey, you want to fly on this plane? Hey, when you're in here, you need to give a massage and whatever else he asks for. No, we can drop you back off at that trailer park in Ohio. You know, it
Yeah.
doesn't even have to be violent. It doesn't have to be crazy.
Yeah. And so you really, are you saying that you couldn't arrive on the island, or like, from what you understand, you couldn't not know what's going on?
Yeah, I think that so that was the flight. That was like the pregame there is massages and whatever else from underage girls in their underwear. You know, that's the description. You know, I'm sure other things happened, but that's the flight to the island. And then when
Wow.
you got there, it wasn't always at the island. A lot of this happened at parties in New York or parties in Ohio or parties at West Palm Beach or whatever. This wasn't just always at the island. This was taking place all over the place in England and France also.
Yeah.
He had a chateau in Paris that was another gift by the Lex, whatever.
Yeah. And all that access is attained by money, by
Yeah.
lots and lots of money.
And so
So, and so, again, all of that was happening, but that wasn't the real deal. The real deal was that it was blackmail
yes.
for
And,
foreign governments. And so the
and
question
also
is, go
yeah.
ahead.
And also for probably his own financial gain too. Like it
Oh
probably
yeah,
wasn't just governments. He was also all of his victims said that he looked, and even just Lane kind of testified on this too, that he thought of everyone else as almost subhuman. Like people that weren't in his billionaire, millionaire friend group. He thought that they were like disposable trash to be thrown away. That's why he felt justified doing some of the monstrous stuff that he did because he thought these girls weren't even really human.
mm.
And that matches, like that checks out from other things that I've heard. But yeah, he that was another thing that MI6 guy said about him. I was listening to Daryl Cooper and a couple other people do deep dives on him, and Candace Owens. Daryl Cooper has a 6-hour deep dive on him on his podcast Martyr Made, where he goes over everything that I've just talked about, but a picture like an hour per bullet point on each topic. Goes from his basically is he came out of nowhere. Like there were a couple prominent Epstein families, but he really came out of nowhere. He was hired. He dropped out of college, made some friends in sororities in college and some of these secret sororities. Got in as a teacher in this very prestigious private high school in New York. Was only employed there for a year because of allegations of misconduct with minors. Um, that's where he met uh, the owner of Bearstein's Bank because one of his students was the daughter of the owner of Bearstein's Bank or whatever, and that's how he got in, and that's how it snowballed from there. Daryl Cooper has done a 6-hour breakdown on this, and I listened to it on my road trip.
So let's say, just to cut to the chase, that yeah, you believe that he's an asset, he's an asshole, he's all of these things.
Yeah,
What
he's a
has
demon.
happened? What has happened? Why is Trump not releasing the not just so there's no list. Okay, why not just release
Everything that
every single thing minus the victim's name?
Well, I think Benjamin Netanyahu told him not to, or someone in the intelligence. And also, I should say this: like, it's not just the Zionist government. MI6 has been deeply involved with the families and the groups that form Israeli government since their OSS days, and the same thing with MI6 back in their OSS days. They both called their pre-CIA and MI6 organizations of the OSS because they were conjoined, the Office of Strategic Services. There's been these groups have been intertwined since their conception, and so it's all just part of the same big machine. I don't know. What was your question? I feel like I got sidetracked.
Well, I'm just trying to figure out what changed, what happened, why.
Yeah, it happened that's what I was hinting at that trip when Netanyahu came here is when Kash Patel and Dan Bongino came out and said there's no list. He wasn't committing blackmail and he killed himself. And then that's also the same, like a couple days later, where Donald Trump started this "Are we still talking about Jeffrey Epstein" thing? There was a storm. There was a flood down in Texas. You're going to talk about that while this wonderful man here is here, Bibi Netanyahu. I think it was a clear message, and I think it's not a very far stretch to see that. Like his ties to these intelligence agencies, his ties to wealthy people, including Donald Trump, for decades, and then Donald Trump had been saying, I don't think it's a smart move of him promising for years to disclose all of this stuff just to come out later and not disclose the stuff. Like, that's not a very strategic move.
Yeah, no, I don't. I guess I had asked what the options were. Like, what do you think could have happened? I think that either one, he was just lying about this whole time that there wasn't a lot of evidence. You know, he was lying about having a lot, and that in fact there was not.
Right.
That's a potential.
That's possible.
Or yeah, they had a lot of information or a lot of evidence, and it was destroyed before they got there. That's possible. Maybe they had a lot of information and somebody told them not to release it. You know, it could be any of those things. My money is on somebody telling them not to release it.
Well, I think he kind of let his train of thought come out when he talked about JFK. He said, we don't want to release the list. He said this on Joe Rogan. We don't want to release anyone on that case that might still be alive. We don't want to ruin anyone's life that's still alive. It might be something along those lines. Like, he thought it was going to be okay because that was his train of thought with JFK. So he obviously thinks like that. Maybe that same thought was applied to this. Like, oh, my friend or some of his friends
are on this list?
Yeah. Okay. Well, I guess there is no list then, huh?
Man.
I'll go kiss the wall.
Can you imagine being, let's say that you are trying to do your job, Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. Let's say that you are doing your job and your lieutenant says, hey, I need you to give a briefing. There is no evidence.
Yep.
Can you imagine that?
Well, Bongino threatened to walk out.
That's what I heard. That's what I heard. That video of that clip of Kash Patel on Rogan, where he's like, I mean, obviously, if there was a felony, you don't think I would have done something?
It's me. I
mean, come on. Like, yeah, I would tell you if there was a felony. That looked so bad. That looked so guilty.
What do you see? Oh, you're talking about Kash Patel.
Yeah. There you are.
I kicked my grill. My grill is my camera holder, and I had a nice DJI that I don't know where it's at, and it's probably dead. But this
you just had a drone just hovering.
No, it was a DJI camera holder or phone holder, but it had like the software where I got it when I was a realtor for starting to make shorts back then.
Oh, it had like a gimbal on it?
Yeah, it was a gimbal.
Okay.
I don't know where it's at, and wherever it is, it's dead. So I'm using my grill. I accidentally karate kicked my grill when I was looking for where my water was.
Well, I reckon I got about 26 minutes, so I think we got a bunch more topics we need to cover.
Okay.
Do
Lay
we?
'em on me.
I mean, I don't know what they are. I assume we do because we haven't talked in a bit.
Well, I guess something to kind of stay in
Oh,
this vein. Oh, go ahead.
well, I want to hear, what do you think is going on? Why did BB not want him to release it?
Well,
Are
all
they
of
just
the
not done? They're just not done with using it?
no, well, obviously, I think other people are using that. Like that got dispersed. Like that information didn't disappear. I think other
Yeah.
people collected that and are using it. Also, I think the implications of who's involved had a factor in changing course pretty drastically. Um, Man, somehow, ever since Joe Rogan used to have a joke that this was like on his Monkeys in Space album that every president that gets in their first day in office, they see a video of the JFK shooting, but it's a video from an angle that's never been released before, and then the guy presses pause on it and looks at the new president and says, "Any questions?" Nope. Like it was something along those lines, like, "Hey, we killed a president, and we've killed lots of people, and we're not afraid to do it again. Any questions?" Because not for nothing, JFK wanted AIPAC to register as foreign agents for Israel, and they wanted to stop Israel from getting nuclear weapons, which Israel now has nuclear weapons, and they're not part of any international treaty. They're not subject to any investigation or inspections, which is the whole point that we bombed Iran, right? Because we were afraid of
Mm-hmm.
their nukes. Israel has been doing that since the 60s, and there's even allegations that they stole the initial plutonium from the United States, and that's why that was like coordinated through Johnson after JFK's assassination. Those are allegations, and we can do that's worth looking into more. But not for nothing, the CIA and the Mossad, in correlation with the organized crime units of the Americas, killed an American president. Like I think that's pretty black and white at this in 2025.
Yeah.
Which is probably why RFK isn't really hammering the door down either, because I think they killed his dad.
I mean, but you knew this. They knew this.
Which is
I
why
mean, I
every
think now you
president
got
since,
proof. Now we've
yeah.
got proof, but
I think the question is, what do we do with what does the American people do? What do the voters? What are the people watching this? What are the people watching Fox News? And having a critical, independent mind. We want to be independent thinkers. We don't want to be zombies. We don't want to go along with the herd. Having an independent mind, what do we do watching Donald Trump say for 4 years that we need to release the Epstein files, him saying for 16 years that all these Democratic guys are cowards and wussies for not releasing the Epstein files, and now all of a sudden he says, don't talk about it. What do we say to Ted Cruz, who's an elected official from America? And oh, that's something I was going to say too. Massey and AOC petitioned to have it all released, and only 6 members of Congress out of the 300 and whatever voted to have it released. It was Thomas Massey, AOC, 2 Democrats, and 3 Republicans voted to have. Everyone else voted no, we can't release that. So as far as I'm concerned, what do you do with all those other 360 whatever members of Congress that don't want you to know the truth of someone that at least hypothetically, very probably was involved with the people that are running our lives, the heads of our economy, the heads of our government, the people who sent me to Iraq and Afghanistan, the people that are writing these drug laws, the people who are running these pharmaceutical companies.
I don't think that with our system, I don't think that there's any way to change it. I really don't. Because until you take money out of it, until you take the potential for money out of it, as soon as money's introduced, you're no longer representing me. you're representing your interest. I mean, I just think I don't know that you can get around human nature.
Well, we know you're getting money to represent the interests of a foreign government from APAC.
So yeah, that's it.
So
Because
we know that.
yeah, uh,
We know that you're willing to. We know that you're willing to protect a convicted human trafficker and child molester. That's what's going on now. They're protecting the information of a dead child molester and human trafficker because of his connections with very powerful people. That's what you don't have to read very far between the lines to see that's what's going on. This is being hidden to protect powerful people that are still alive.
right.
So
And so what needs to happen is the whole thing just needs to be. I don't want to sound like the Joker, like we're gonna shut it down. Uh, but like I think the whole thing has to just start over, and I don't know what that looks like, but
I
you
think
can't.
you look for people that are like, I mean, even though I severely disagree with her on a lot of things, you look for people like AOC, like Bernie Sanders, like Thomas Massey, that are willing to stand on their morals, even in the face of, because they had all the evidence that the other people had. Maybe they said, hey, we need at least a couple people to vote no on this or whatever, or to vote yes on this, to make it look like we're not all implicated. But Trump is trying to run a midterm to get Thomas Massey out of office.
I saw that.
So Trump has turned his big guns on him and wants MAGA and is telling MAGA to get Massey out. We need to look for radical
Well,
leaders. We need to look for radical change.
I mean, maybe I'm just maybe I'm being a pessimist, but Teapot made it. He said it in our group conversation that people just don't. People generally don't act against their own self-interest, right? I mean, that's
Yeah.
kind of what he was getting at. And so it'll never change from a political perspective because you're never going to get enough politicians to vote against their own self-interest.
Yeah.
And so I hate to be a pessimist, but I think that having learned that the government has been such a part of so much of everything has been such
A lie, a
a
false,
lie, a ruse by the government.
definitely propagandized.
Yeah, I I don't know. I don't know what to do with it because I sure don't want to vote. Sure doesn't make me want to rally.
It makes me want to take a magnifying glass to everything. Like I think now more than ever the need for public discourse. Like this is what's important. It's important for us like to talk about this with TPOC or to talk about these social things. And we need to get some more garbage boys going. But to talk about this you need to talk about this with people who might have a different point of view than you do. You need to challenge your thoughts. You need to challenge your questions. Like, am I willing to still wear this red hat in the light of the evidence that is before me? Am I willing to say that it's more important which, by the way, eggs and gas and milk, the price has not gone down. It's still gone up. But is this worth the price of eggs and milk and gas? A convicted human trafficker, child molester, to be protected by the highest levels of the government. Am I willing to trade one for the other? I'm not. I think most people aren't if they ask themselves that question. The problem is they're not asking, they're just avoiding it altogether. Mainstream media is not talking about it. It's only the podcast and the TikTok and the Instagram where you're going to see this information. You're not seeing it on Fox News. You're not seeing a lot of it on CNN either, even by the people who hate Trump. Even that's pretty telling in its own way. And that's the argument of it's a democratic, invention. That's the evidence against that. Because if it was, wouldn't they have let it go when they were in power 16 of the last 20 years? wouldn't they have dumped it on there if they really? Because they were trying to impeach him. They almost wanted to start civil unrest. They're willing.
My AirPods died, so I gotta.
Oh, no problem. We can even start wrapping it up because I feel like we're just kind of hitting the same shit over and over.
Okay. Well, anything you want to hit before we wrap up?
No. Have a conversation with someone you don't agree with. Question your foundational truths. Hopefully they're good. Hopefully they stick around just the way that they are. But I think it's healthy to question your foundational truths and question your identity politics and say, do I really believe this? Think about things through the other person's lens.
Yeah, I like it. All right. Peace out.
Peace.